Hello booktube, hello book friends. Welcome back to my channel and another reading week catch-up video for the third week of PI July, and this video is for the week ending the 19th of July 2025. It's been I think slightly slower week this week in terms of books reading, books finished, and so on. But let's talk about the books that I have finished first. And at the last reading week video, I was still listening to Ross Macdonald's Sleeping Beauty on audiobook, which is a Lou Archer novel. I have now finished that. It was a good read. Or good listen, and story basically is there's been an oil spill. Lou Archer goes down to the coast to just basically have a look for himself to see what's going on. Meets a woman there who appears to be very upset about the oil spill and so on. Ends up giving her a ride back into town. She asks if she can use his phone. He lets her. She then takes some sleeping pills from his bathroom medicine cabinet and disappears. It turns out that he thinks perhaps she's going to go off and commit suicide, so he tries to find her. That then turns into what may or may not be a kidnapping of the woman. And various other things associated with it. All of it ties back to events that happened in the Second World War out at I've forgotten which island off of Japan it was, but one of the Japanese islands when the Americans were trying to take those ahead of the Japanese mainland. So it's all tied in with that. Quite a complicated kind of plot behind basically a series of murders that happen, and this kidnapping. It's a bit, but really well told, really well read, great story, really well done overall. Really enjoyed it. And then I also, I think I was reading this last week, or I just started it and had nearly finished it, I think. This is the first Mike Hammer novel, Mickey Spillane's I, the Jury. This was really good as well. Of its time, obviously, written, I think, in the late 1940s. And, so language and themes of the time, as you would expect. Doesn't say what the copyright is in here. This edition is 1960s, but it was originally published in 1950. I think it's about 1947 or something like that. Anyway, basically, Mike Hammer, as you will guess, is a private investigator, and he is called to one of his best friend's flats, where he discovers that he has been brutally murdered. And Hammer immediately decides that he is going to take revenge. He is going to be the jury. He is going to find the person that did it and punish them or kill them. And there is no client in this other than that the victim was Mike Hammer's friend, and therefore he was seeking that vengeance. And the fact that the friend was basically lost an arm saving Mike's life during the Second World War. So there is a kind of blood bond between the two of them, and it as I say, really well told. I really enjoyed it. it introduces the character of Mike Hammer quite well, I think, given that it's the first novel. There are some twists in terms of who did it, which I wasn't surprised in the end. It became quite obvious, probably about 2/3 of the way through, what had happened or who the murderer was. And it plays out as you would expect, but it's a thoroughly good read, and I'm looking forward to reading more in the series. And then a slightly different change of pace, and for me, someone who is a comfort read, and that is Dick Francis and his novel Whip Hand. Now, Dick Francis is known for writing horse racing thrillers, crime thrillers. He did write, I think it's 5 or 6 books in a series with a recurring character, excuse me, who is a private investigator. So I thought, this is the second book in the series. It was a reread for me, but a reread of probably some 30 years ago, maybe even a bit longer. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed rereading this. I remembered bits of it. In particular, there is a scene involving a hot air balloon, which I remembered. But the general story I couldn't really remember much about, and particularly didn't remember who the main villain was in the end. So there is a twist towards the end where the villain is revealed, and it wasn't what I was expecting. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, really, and I would recommend this. I think the first in the series I read, I want to say a couple of months ago, which was Odds Against, and again that was a reread. And now reading this just purely because it was PI July, and I'm looking to see if I've got the next one in the series, because I'll probably reread that again before the end of the month if I have it. If not, then I'll read something else. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. So what am I reading and listening to now? Well, after finishing Sleeping Beauty, I picked up another Raymond Chandler audiobook from our local library, from their audiobook loans, and this is Farewell My Lovely. I've realised I'm about halfway through, but it doesn't really feel like the story has got going yet. So basically this is Philip Marlowe, who initially gets involved by accident in I want to say a hold up, but it's not. It's basically a man known as Moose Malloy, who is over nearly 7 feet tall, built like a brick outhouse, goes into a club, and Marlowe happens to be passing the club at the time. As someone is thrown out the door, Marlowe puts his head in to see what's going on, is grabbed by Moose Malloy and dragged up the stairs to the club, where Moose proceeds to question the barman and the bouncer, some of it with his fists, to try and find a lady who used to work at the club, who is his girl. Now, Moose has just been released from prison after serving 8 years for armed robbery that he may or may not have actually been involved in. And in that time, the club has changed hands, and so nobody knows what he's talking about. He goes into a back room to question the manager of the club. There is a shot. Moose reappears carrying a gun, although he didn't shoot the manager. The manager pulled the gun on him, and Moose took the gun from him and clobbered him and killed him. And then Moose runs away. Obviously, Marlowe is kind of left, trying to explain to the cops what's going on. And then there's proceeds to be a kind of period where Marlowe realizes the cops aren't particularly bothered. They want to get the guy, but they're not particularly bothered about his victims. And there is a succession of sort of keystone cops where they think they've got him, and then it turns out it's not, it's somebody else. So Marlowe tries to find him by trying to find the woman that he was looking for. And during that time, he is called upon to act as a bodyguard for a ransom payment where a man is trying to recover some jewellery that was stolen from him and his girlfriend. And the thieves have offered to give it back to them in return for a ransom, because it's jewellery that would be difficult to sell because of it's quite conspicuous and it has quite a high value. And in that exchange, the guy who hired Marlowe is murdered, and it turns out that potentially it looks like the two things, although appearing to be completely unrelated, might not be. And that's about as far as I've got. And like I say, it really feels like it's not got going yet. It's still kind of telling the initial story, and it's just about to kind of get into the meat of the story. And I say I'm over halfway through of the audiobook, so I don't know. Interestingly, this is the same narrator and production as The Long Goodbye, which I think I talked about back in week 1 or week 2, that had some really bad pickups in it. No such problem with this one so far, touch wood. But yeah, it's interesting that it's quite nice that it's the same narrator and so on, because it feels like there's continuity between the two. But I'm certainly glad that in terms of dodgy pickups, there aren't any so far anyway, or at least not that I've detected. And then the physical book I'm reading is Stephen King's Never Flinch, because this has the private eye Holly Gibney as one of the principal characters in it. This is I want to say is going a little slow, because I've been reading this for the majority of the week. Whip Hand I really finished quite quickly, and then this I've been reading since I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday anyway, and I'm only on page 64, so I don't quite know why. And it's been a very hot and humid week, and I've reached the point where I'm done with the weather. So whether that's having an impact or not, I don't know. But it's good so far. I can't really say much more than that. There are two stories involving, two plot lines involving Holly. The first is an apparent set of revenge killings for somebody who was found guilty of, or basically framed and found guilty for crimes that they obviously didn't commit, and then was murdered in prison, and somebody is now out seeking revenge by murdering others. And then there is a bodyguard plot which hasn't really got going yet, so I don't know much more about it than that. But Holly is, key to both of those kind of investigations. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm just not reading it very quickly, and I don't know why. So, well, there you go. I've also seem to have put out a lot of videos this week, which so I did the childhood book tag last Sunday. And then as a kind of follow-up to that, because it inspired me to think about some of the other, because that was the books I read as a child. And then there've been a lot of books that I have read that kind of shaped my career and my studies. So I did a books that can shape a career tag, which was kind of following on from the childhood book tag, really. Then I did the rather hilarious Would You Rather tag, because as I think Debs from Rain and Read Stuff said in the comments, I think you're overthinking it. So yeah, probably. So that was good fun. And then I also did the Untouched book tag, which looks at 10 books from my shelves that I've had for over a year and have never read. And that was quite good fun as well. And I think it's prompted me to think, actually, some of those 10 I am now going to, get off the shelves and read, and others as well, that have been there maybe as long or longer, or not even a year, but have been sitting there, bought with the best intention and never read. And then ongoing Poetry Thursday, looking at war poets. I have one more planned for next week, and then I need to do a bit more research and so on. And I want to mix it up a little bit, particularly for some of the Second World War poets, because I think there are. I've been focusing on female poets primarily because they are less well known. But I think when it comes to Second World War poets, there are also a few men who aren't very well known as well. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but one more week this week, which will be female Second World War poets, and then we'll see. And where the series goes in the longer term, I don't know that either. So yeah, I'm enjoying doing the research and reading the poems and recording the videos. So I'll keep doing that. And that's it, I think. Yeah. What have you been reading this week? Any PI novels? Watched any PI television? Been watching a few bits and pieces, some classic episodes of Magnum and things like that. So yeah, let me know in the comments. And if you have been, thank you for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.